everyone, Anime Infection here, and today we are going to talk about Wayfinder's major patch. This is one of their first major patches since the game has been released. It's been out for a little bit more than 2 weeks. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down this list and we're going to talk about everything that they have patched, things that still need to be fixed. And since this came out yesterday, I did get a chance to test it out, and I'm going to give you my inside opinion on what I think. So, the first one that we have here is combat and gameplay. Nightmare event cooldown has significantly reduced from 2 hours to every 60 seconds in the Highlands. Now, for me, I did actually try this in the area for Nightmare, and it actually does work. Usually every 60 seconds, Nightmare will get released. Now, the only catch to that caveat is that you have to have the items to be able to constantly spawn it. Now, I'm sure that must be obvious to some people, but for others, not so much. So it's probably really important if you're going to farm this multitudes of times, you may want to collect the materials to be able to farm it. Otherwise, what you're going to end up doing is you're not going to have enough materials. Either that or bring a party together, and that might just make things easier. The next thing we're going to talk about is the burst rifles now automatically begin firing after reloading. Now, from my understanding, I guess what was happening was, at least with the rifle, people were using it, but yet it wasn't reloading after it was done firing. So now that it's doing that, should make things a lot easier for rifle users, especially when you're, using venomous. And that'll be a definite change of pace. Fleas will no longer continue to spawn during the Sphere of Influence event in the Highlands. This is very, very important. Let's consider the fact that, once the event is over, the enemies should no longer be spawning. And that's kind of important because the thing is, if you're like down to like your very slither of health and you have no more health potions and they just kill you, yes, you can resurrect and you can go back to your waypoint, but the thing is, why would you need to if the event was over? So it's good that they got that fixed up. Arcane Buildup Mastery will correctly increase the damage based on momentum for all execution melees and weapon types. Along with the other Arcane Buildup from Mastery Level 3 will deal Arcane Energy Bursts for all execution melee weapon types as intended. Now this is very important because the thing is, if you're in the middle of a battle and you're just comboing constantly, it didn't really seem like the damage was actually being delivered. It seems like the same amount of damage was given out each and every time. So that was quite a hassle. So the fact that they corrected this makes a huge difference, especially when you're doing the major boss fights or even fighting enemies in the higher end tiers of the lost areas. So it's good that they're getting this corrected. The next one is Sniper Rifle Mastery corrects boost damage and long range. Now, when you're a sniper, you're doing it from a distance, especially if you have certain fights where enemies like to do AoEs. You want to kind of try to do that at a distance. It's unfortunate that, we have to let people know that that needs to be fixed. The next one is knockbacks now respect dodge invincibility frames. This is important for Nis because, at least for me, when I use Nis and I was using one of her abilities, it's supposed to give me invincibility for at least a few seconds. And it wasn't. So the fact that they got that corrected makes a massive difference. The echo rarity types in text in the echoes menu now match the correct rarity. Now this was something I did notice where you would get a blue echo, but it would show like the gray symbol, or it would be like the purple echo, but it would be a blue symbol. And then it ended up being like just a rare instead of an epic, and that was rather confusing. So I'm glad they fixed that. Nis's lingering shadow buff icon refreshes correctly in the player's HUD after 3 stacks when active. Now this isn't truly important because the thing is, if you notice on the bottom left of your screen, when you use Nis, you had a bunch of buffs already there, especially the ones from the Echo, but now the one with the lingering shadow will also show when it's actually being used, so that's a big plus. Kairos is actually getting a level, the level 3 Kairos Arcane Focus will now deal the intended additional instance of damage. Now, I guess for most players, the damage wasn't there. Again, this is one of those things where, we were doing the damage, but the damage numbers were not adding up to the damage that you were supposed to do when you were at a certain level. Fixing incorrect per level attribute budget amount, causing heroic heroes to be more powerful at level 30 than intended. Now, to me, this doesn't really make sense. Kyros is supposed to be one of our first heroics, and the fact that they are saying that it needed to be corrected seems a little off to me. I do know there will be more heroics down the road, but still, you'd think that heroic heroes would be a little bit more powerful than the standard characters. I don't know. Maybe they're thinking it needed to be toned down because we still have other levels, and right now the cap is at 30. That's the other possibility. Now, Venomous's patches are all three are basically the same, but they all consist about venom thrusters. So I'm just going to read them and then we'll go from there. Venom doses now actively, immediately, and more slightly or faster. When using venom thrusters with no movement input, you will no longer travel off the side instead of going backwards. Using venom throws with ADS or blocking will no longer cause the player to travel off to the side. Now, there's a lot of enemies as well as boss fights that require you to dodge, and the fact that you were either falling off the map or it wasn't even dodging correctly, that could be rather annoying, especially when you want to play a character that you should be able to unlock through the reward tower, or you could just earn it by spending rune silver or a coin. So, I mean, it's good that they're getting that corrected. The next one is quests. Players will no longer get kicked when collecting loot during the lighting of the flamed quest dungeon instance. Now, for me, I've never really done this quest, so I can't really say for absolutely certain if that is fixed or not. When I was doing gameplay last night, I was mostly doing boss fights. I was doing dungeons, but I never really came across that particular quest. So hopefully down the road, I will see what that quest really entails. Remove duplicates Road to Ruin quest, name at the Seeker Avelia in Deepwood Halt. Now, again, I did the main story quest. I did not see duplicates of this quest, but again, I'm only one player out of so many. So there's probably people who were having this bug and it needed to be fixed, and obviously it was important enough that they got it corrected. Fix a bug where side quest XP was scaling unintentionally with difficulty spears. I kind of get that one, more or less. I think it was because, if you're doing a low level quest, but getting high level tier for your spears, it was, that's not really the way it should go. It should be, the higher spear you do, the better XP you'll get, and the lower spear you do, the lower XP you get. So it makes sense. Hidden knowledge side quests can now be completed in the Aurelian Zone and also counts as any variant of decoder event. Now, here's one that's really important, because the thing is the decoder event has been glitched since day one, and the problem with that being is that nobody was able to do this quest. You can get the quest, but the problem was that you weren't able to even complete it, because every time you did the decoder mission in the lost area, you just said complete, but it didn't count for anything on the side mission. So hopefully they get that fixed. And they say it is fixed, but once again, that's one I haven't done yet. I do have the side quest for it. I just haven't checked to see if it works. The next patches they did were the lost zones. Known action for kicking players with problem saving user data has been addressed. Thank God, because let me tell you something. Whether you were loading in a dungeon, a lost area, opening the game, anything in general would cause this problem of saving user data. So the fact that they fixed this is actually really important. Alternate persona will now appear equipped on Wayfinder models and expeditions reward screens. Now, that's really good. I guess what they mean is the way your character looks. At least that's the way I'm taking it. So hopefully we'll be able to see that as you're completing missions with other players. The Gloom Ambush event in the Lost Zone will now reward players with Gloom Shards upon completion. Once again, this was one of those things where you were doing the Gloom ambush missions in the open world, and I guess they weren't giving you Gloom shards. Again, this is one of those things where I was getting stuff, but maybe it wasn't the stuff I was thinking we were supposed to get. So the next one is reduce the amount of enemies spawning during the excavation unit, supply raid, supply run, chain gang, and what lies beneath event in the pit. Now, this one is really interesting because I have done the pit so many times, but I didn't really notice that excess amount of enemies, but apparently that has been an issue. Uh, I didn't see it being that big of a deal, but once again, it's one of those things where, people felt it was an issue, so it needed to be addressed. Enemies at the end of the Lost Zone expedition can no longer spawn out of bounds and prevent the player's ability to complete the expedition. That's really good, so I'm glad they're getting that corrected. Party invites will no longer be sent on an online player's actively in a Lost Zone instance. Now, this is really important because they're trying to follow suit with Warframe. Warframe has basically the same principle. If you bring somebody into your party, especially in the once you're already doing the mission and you're 5-10 minutes in, there are no more players that allow other people to get into your Warframe mission. Now, if you were in the beginning, that's a bit of different, especially if you're trying to do like a defense mission or a survival mission on Warframe. They'll allow other players to get in, but once you hit that 5 minute mark in survival or after 5 rounds in defense, players can no longer join. So they're obviously trying to follow that Warframe principle. So new music variation have been added to Deep Mines Expedition. I was in the Deep Mines. I wasn't really paying too much attention to the music, but I am kind of curious to see what kind of music is actually playing now. Fixed a bug where the loot goblin was giving more rewards than intended. I mean, that could be both good and bad. I actually think that getting more rewards from a loot goblin, especially it being a loot goblin, you'd think you would get a lot of treasure out of it, but apparently they felt it was too much. In regards to the hunts, rifles can no longer transfer the orb to a husk enemy by shooting it during the Dread Legion event. Dread Legion hunt, not event, hunt. For all those who are rifle users, that sucks. Because let me tell you something, the Dreaded Legion fight, especially when you first start doing it, sucks. And the fact that you have to be at melee distance to now deliver the payload, I mean, I do it with Nis, but still, that's a pain in the ass. The number of enemies that spawn during each phase of the Dreaded Legion hunt is reduced. That's good because, in the third phase, there were more enemies than there were of the creatures dropping the orbs. So I'm glad that they are actually able to get that corrected. Bombs will now explode quicker when passing to an enemy in the Dreaded Legion hunt. Now, for people who were rifle users or fighting at a distance, this is very important. Once you drop that payload, you need to get out of there as quickly as humanly possible and make sure that you're covering yourself before it explodes. I did do some of the Dreaded Legion, and I did see the difference in the bomb drops and how quickly they basically explode. They give you a good 5 seconds before they blow up, but it's still very important to dodge and make sure you're doing what you need to do. Players can no longer get stuck and die in between the holographic tiles in the Dreaded Legion hunt. I ran into this once or twice. It was very frustrating, and the fact that they fixed that makes it a bonus. The hand rejoin ground slam attack AoE warning indicators are now visible during the Argent Hand hunt. I never noticed it, and I'm wondering if that was something we were supposed to notice. So it's interesting. I need to do that fight again to see what they were talking about. Fixed an issue where some of the hunts were rewarding unintended loot on completion. My question is, for anybody who's watching this video, if you know what that unintended loot was, please comment down below so I know. I am kind of curious because honestly, I don't know what loot is supposed to drop where. I didn't really find a loot table. I don't think anybody has created one as of yet, but I am kind of curious. In regards to the housing patches, reduce the amount of resources required to craft housing item recipes. That's really good, especially when we're trying to craft characters as well as weapons. Housing, that's all just for fun. And the fact that we were using an exponential amount of resources to do it seemed like it was quite a bit of hassle. Temporary players will be unable to switch their equipped Wayfinder or weapon while inside the apartment. I guess there must be glitches going on to where, the player is unable to do so. But once you get out of your housing, you can switch your character. So I don't really see that being like a be all end all issue. And hopefully in the future they'll get that fixed. The Trickster Artifice artifact now has a cooldown timer and can only be interacted with the player who owns the apartment. Now, I guess players were finding a ways to cheat around that. So, you invite someone into your party and they can use that one rather than using their own because that their own already has a cooldown. So that to me kind of makes a lot of sense. In localization patches, fixed several miscellaneous text issues throughout the game. I haven't really noticed those, although then again, I was too focused on gameplay. Translated voiceover has been added to the numerous quests and cutscenes. Now, I'm assuming they mean anything foreign. I would say like Spanish, Chinese, German, so on and so forth. In the miscellaneous, the Enchanted Tower Compass item reward from the Exalted Founders Pack will now appear in the player's key item inventory. Now, this is one I will say that I did look, and honestly, I'll tell you, I'm still not getting it. So, Airship Syndicate, if you watch this video, please get that fixed. I am a console player, and it's still not fixed. I do see that you did say it is fixed, but I don't see it in my key items, so I don't know where it is. 5% reward tower XP earned from the Enchanted Tower Compass item as intended. Again, I don't have that Enchanted Tower Compass, so I don't know what's going on with that. Purchase Founders Packs will visually be displayed as owned in the shop menu. That has been fixed. I have noticed that when I go into the shop, whether it's in the PlayStation Store or actually on the game itself, they did fix that. Players can immediately equip a new acquired Wayfinders or weapons from the Founders Pack without needing to travel first. That's awesome. Several Echoes have their missing icons. That's great. Didn't know they were missing. Camera collision improvements have been added throughout the game. This is where in Dreaded Legion I noticed that, because when I would do Niss's first ability, I would dash back and forth, and some way I was getting like a very top view of the enemy or boss or any way I was fighting. So to fix the camera collision, I did notice they did correct that, so that's really good. Now for the remainder of this, these are just known issues and issues that are going to be addressed at some point. They're not addressed as of yet, but like I say in all my videos, please be patient with Airship Syndicate. They're trying to get all this fixed as quickly as possible. So just be patient. So with the known issues that they're mentioning, helper coins are not rewarded to players upon expedition completion in the Codex Halls, the Pit, and the Shrouded Woods. Helper coins will be rewarded to the players in all other zones and hunts. Hopefully they'll get that fixed soon, and you guys will get reimbursed for those. Debug text visible in the duplicate bindings pop up in the settings menu. Okay, naming inconsistency appear in some weapons throughout several menus. Survivalist critical force mastery does not increase crit chance based on the player's momentum generated. Same type of echoes. Course reduction is not applied consistently. I've seen that. Tracked quests may not appear in the player's HUD and can impede quest progress. I've also seen that. Heroic Kyre's arcane focus ability effects can remain on the enemy and continuously grow in size. I definitely seen that. That's been kind of wild. And the issues that they are still currently tracking is they're trying to figure out what's going on with Venage, especially with the items. We're not be able to sell the accessories. Hopefully they'll get that fixed sooner than later, just because I have so many items in my inventory and I can't get them delivered. As far as the improved camera behavior, especially in small and confined spaces, I'm glad they're getting that corrected, hopefully soon. Wayfinder ability firing off the incorrect direction. I've definitely ran into that with Niss. Addressing feedback with single imbuement mutators. I've also seen that being an issue as well, because I would drop an imbuement on like a level 2 lost area, and the imbuement wouldn't even go through. So not really sure what's going on with that. The Tooth Claw and the Epitaph showing as a rifle. I have not ran into this, but that's also because I haven't created those weapons. Um, so I guess when I do create those weapons, I guess I'll see them as a rifle. That's kind of interesting. The Talon of Pyre crashes in the Highlands. I have seen this countless times. I did try to do that fight, especially in the beginning, and it seems like he'll like the boss will move away and then he'll go into the wall, and then the fight's pretty much over because it's just stuck or glitched. And in the please notes, it says a previous version of these notes include the following: engaging with Thailand Pirate in the Highlands no longer leads to a server crash. Now this is something I myself never ran into, but then again, I haven't done the world boss often. I think I did it like once or twice, and then I kind of stopped doing that because I wanted to level Nis and I wanted to check out the other content. But from the way this major patch looks, it looks like they corrected a lot of things. They look like they addressed a lot of issues, especially a lot of major issues. And they're still going to be patching more, and they're still going to fix all these issues. So, like I say to everybody, uh, please be patient with them. Airship Syndicate is obviously doing the best they can with what they got, and they're going to get this issue resolved a lot sooner than later. Without anything else to say, this is Anime Infection, and I hope you have a wonderful day.